All right. Welcome back, everyone. So I'll call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock. Can we have, are we doing roll call? Yeah, right? Yeah. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Ms. Billman?
Here.
Mr. Fell?
Here.
Mr. Hopkins?
Here.
Ms. McFarland?
Present.
Mr. Weiskopf?
Here.
Ms. Yu?
Here.
And Mr. Allred.
Here.
All right.
So it looks like we have a quorum. We have almost a full house. I'm told that we're missing our newest appointee. And what was the name again?
Her name is Karen Sims.
Karen Sims. Okay.
Yes.
Next time, hopefully. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Two meetings have been, or two plan cases have been continued to the next plan commission meeting. Those include plan case 2425T21, which has been referred to as the solar text amendment. That will go to the September the 23rd. And then the closed session, which has been continued a few times already, that will also go to the 23rd meeting. Well, actually, it will be continued to the next meeting that will be held in person. That has to be held in the council chambers, so not able to do that one over Zoom.
Okay, sounds good. So the approval of the minutes from the August 5th, 2021 meeting. Are there any motions or any comments on the minutes from our last meeting?
I'll move to approve the minutes.
All right, we have a motion from Mr. Fell. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Billman. Any discussion of the minutes? Any changes? If not, we'll do a voice vote
This is also a
or
roll call.
a roll call, I guess, now, again, yeah.
Ms. Yu,
Yes.
Mr. Weiskopf.
Yes.
There he is.
Yep.
Ms. McFarland,
Yes.
Mr. Hopkins,
Yes.
Mr. Fell,
Yes.
Ms. Billman,
Yes.
and Mr. Allred.
Yes. All right, that passes. Do we have any communications?
None.
And looks like we have no continued public hearings. Any old business? I don't see any on the agenda. New public hearings. So we have plan case 2425T21, which is going to be continued into the September 23rd, 2021 regular meeting. And plan case 2426T21, a request by the Urbana zoning administrator to amend the Urbana zoning ordinance with changes to Article 11, administration, enforcement, amendments and fees, and other relevant sections to change how the zoning administrator is appointed. Do we have a presentation?
Yes, and before we get started, it looks like Karen Sims has joined us. Welcome, Karen, to Plan Commission. We're happy to have you.
Yeah,
Thank
welcome.
you.
I'll jump right into this presentation. It's a rather short memo, and it should be relatively straightforward. But the city of Urbana has, or the zoning administrator has applied to amend the Urbana zoning ordinance with a change to Article 11, which is administration, enforcement, amendments, and fees. And the change is to allow the zoning administrator to be a designee of the Community Development Services Director. As it stands now, the zoning administrator must be appointed by the mayor. And the rationale behind this is that the zoning administrator's role is regulatory and administrative in nature. because he is interpreting the zoning ordinance. Their role does not change based on policy direction from the mayor or city council. However, the zoning ordinance currently requires the zoning administrator to be appointed by the mayor with consent from city council. Since the zoning administrator's role is not subject to the mayor or city council's direction, it would be more efficient, prudent. It would just make more sense in general to have that position be designated, and that word is specific because they are not appointed by a staff member. They're designated by the Community Development Services Director. That would make more sense than having the zoning administrator appointed by the mayor or city council. So the one exhibit included in your packet was the strike-through language in 2 sections of the zoning ordinance. Section 11.1, which is the zoning administrator A, and then section 11.4, which is the city council section of that same article. So I can take any questions that you guys might have, but it's really an administrative change, or should be considered an administrative change to the language to allow the zoning administrator to be designated rather than appointed.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Trotter. Do we have any questions for staff? Mr. Hopkins.
So who is the appointed zoning administrator at present?
Lori Pearson as the director of the Community Development Services Department is the zoning administrator. Although Kevin Garcia has been the acting zoning administrator. So he's able to sign off on things and interpret as the planning manager. But by title, Lori Pearson, Community Development Services Director, is of current.
Okay, so my recollection is that historically the Director of Community Development has been the appointed zoning administrator. Is an implication of this that the Director of Community Development can appoint herself, designate herself, or is the implication that this actually is intended to treat the acting interim pattern that has also, I think, existed, and make that person officially the designee? Do we know what does this look like on the ground, is I guess what I'm asking.
Sure. So as Lori Pearson is the director of Community Development Services now, she will likely appoint Kevin Garcia, the planning manager, as the zoning administrator going forward. If he, say, moved into the Community Development Services Director position, I think he would remain or retain his status as the zoning administrator. Are you asking, like, in future tense, if we had a new Community Development Services Director and they wanted to appoint them, or I'm sorry, designate themselves as the zoning administrator, would they have the power to do that?
Right, and I think they would and might. Am I correct?
That is my understanding, yes.
Yeah, okay. All right.
It looks like Ms. Pearson has her hand up in the audience. I don't know if she had some additional comments or.
She should be. Yeah, there she comes.
Mostly, I just wanted to let you know that I'm here should you need more explanation. And to Lou's question, I do think that's possible, and I think and sometimes it makes sense to do that. I do see that there is an opportunity to, or that it's important to have that opportunity to separate those positions so that you don't have any implication of political pressure to provide regulatory enforcement on something, let's say. So this is it's been my experience that those positions usually are different from the appointee position. But with such a small staff, sometimes it's perhaps necessary to have those be the same because you might not have another person that is able. So I think having maximum flexibility allows the city to respond to a variety of situations.
Right.
Sounds good. Any further questions for staff? All right, so the next would be public input. Do we have people in the audience that are members of the public, I suppose, is what I'm asking.
We have two council members in the attendees list, and Grace Wilkin has her hand raised.
Okay, great. So let me go over the rules for a public hearing then. Well, I guess this is a little bit different in that it's not a case, but yeah, I guess we'll just open it up to public
Could
comment.
I want to just provide some instruction for council members prior to making a statement in front of this body. Since this is a case that will be heard by city council, if a city council member states an opinion on this case, then it is likely they will be advised that they will need to recuse themselves from the vote in front of city council because they will have the opportunity to vote at city council. So I just wanted to make sure that the council members were aware of that before they gave statements, because I wouldn't want it to be a surprise later. So certainly questions and things make perfect sense, but just wanted to advise you of that.
Okay, so we'll open it up to the public. Whoever, looks like Grace Wilkin has her hand up. Like to address the commission.
Hey, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Thank you. My name is Grace Wilkin. I'm a resident of Urbana, and as Lori said, also a council member, but just speaking as a member of the public and interested person happening to be informed of council because I'm there. And I appreciate the preface too, Lori. I appreciate that. I do just have two questions. And my first one you already addressed. I was just wondering when public input was, because there was different parts on the agenda, but it didn't specifically say public input. So I was wondering when or if that would happen. So that question's already addressed. And my second question was maybe slightly also addressed about if this was going to council and what that process was. And if you could just explain a little more about how the commission is moving this and what that process is. And that's all. Thank you for your service. I appreciate your time on the commission. I know that it's a volunteer thing and that y'all work hard, and I appreciate your time on this. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Ms. Trotter, do you want to handle this one or?
Sure. Grace, to answer your question, this case as a text amendment will go to city council. It is scheduled for Monday's city council meeting, so the 13th. The procedure will be that there will be discussion amongst the plan commission, if any, and then someone will make a recommendation to forward the case to city council with a recommendation for approval or denial. There will be a vote afterward, and that case will then go to the council meeting on Monday.
May I also provide a little more info for council and also the public? So the cases like this require a public hearing, and so that's what we're in right now. And what's interesting is that with a public hearing, this is the body where the public is supposed to be providing their input. So this is, we send out notices to neighbors. We put an ad in the newspaper to say, hey, if you have a comment about something, this is the time to come. Not to say that people can't come or don't come to council. Just wanted to let you know that certain cases require this public hearing. State law requires this public hearing. So it's a little bit different, and that's why public input needs to be taken at the time of the case so that it is incorporated within the record for this public hearing item. And so thanks for letting me do this PSA. So I'll be quiet now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Percy. Ms. Wilkin, did you have it? Okay. Does that answer your questions or?
Yes, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. And do we have anyone else from the public who would like to address the commission? It looks like there's one other participant that I can see. But no hands up. So I'm gonna assume that no one else would like, oh, hold that thought. Is it Ms. Bishop? Would you like to address the commission?
No, I'm just here to listen. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So it looks like we'll declare the public input portion closed and go into discussion and possibly entertain motions to vote. So is there any discussion on the proposed text amendment to the zoning ordinance? Ms. Billman, did you? Oh, never mind. Your mic went off, so I thought maybe you had something to say. And now you're muted.
Okay, I think you were reading my mind. Is this happening because the people who've been involved in this think it's a good idea? Is that what's happening here?
Would you like me to take that, Kat? There's probably 3 reasons why it's happening. One is you probably received my note that I am leaving the city. And and so one, we need a zoning administrator in order to do some very important things like issue building permits and certificates of occupancy, in addition to all of the other stuff that you probably know about, but those by code are issued by the zoning administrator. So there's that piece. 2, it's really also part of a larger discussion amongst city council and about the list of people that are appointed versus those that should be not appointed. So there's that larger discussion that this is a part of. And then thirdly, yes, I do think it's a good idea. I've worked in a number of places and I have never seen the person that is appointed also being the one that regulates the zoning ordinance. So it is interesting that it is done this way here. And I do worry that it opens up the city to have political influence, or at least a perception of that, in areas where it's a black and white thing. So for instance, since the zoning administrator technically issues building permits are an administrative function. If a building meets the code, it needs to be approved. The permit needs to be approved, right? So while we haven't had any issues here where there's favoritism or anything like that, separating those positions eliminates that opportunity.
Thanks for that clarification.
Thank you, Lori.
Anyone else have any comments for discussion? No. So we ready to make a motion?
So if somebody will tell me what the case number is, I'll make a motion.
So it's case number 2426T21.
2426T21. I
Yes.
move we send this to the city council with recommendation of approval.
We have a motion by Mr. Hopkins. We have a second?
I'll second.
Fell? Okay. Second by Mr. Fell. Could we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Ms. Billman,
Yes.
Mr. Fell,
Yes.
Mr. Hopkins,
Yes.
Ms. McFarland, You're muted.
Yes.
Ms. Sims,
Yes.
Mr. Weiskopf,
Yep.
and Miss Yu.
Yes.
Oh, Mr. Allred also.
Yes, thank you. So that motion passes. And do we have a date for council?
Yes, that will be the 13th.
The 13th, okay. Any new business
No.
on the agenda? Audience participation. So is there anyone who wishes to address the Planning Commission for 4 minutes uninterrupted on a topic of your choice?
Can we say goodbye to Lori?
Sure.
Sorry to see you leave the city, Lori, but glad you'll be staying in the county.
Thank you very much. It's bittersweet for sure. I will miss this place. I could not pass up this opportunity though. I think this is what I'm meant to do.
Yeah, it sounds like a great opportunity. We're definitely sorry to see you leave, and thank you for everything that you've done for the city.
Thank you.
And we'll see you at the park, was it? I forget.
Hopefully the weather will cooperate and nobody else is using Victory Park because it's going to be a COVID-friendly celebration there. So
Sounds good. Is there a staff report?
No staff report.
And no study session, and the closed session, we are continuing to our next in-person meeting, which will hopefully be sometime in the near future. And with that, we are adjourned.
Thank you guys.
Thanks,
Have a good
everyone.
rest of your evening.